and welcome to episode 3 of Snape Chat. In this show, we'll be discussing fanfiction with our guest Megs from the Care of Magical Shivers podcast. Then we have an interview with the very talented Nyx, also known as myobscureimaginarium on Tumblr and dimitriwix on DeviantArt. Enjoy the show. This is Snapecentric, along with
Megs.
I have fanartist right now on my Discord, but Fallen everywhere else, so I'll just go by that.
And Fermion.
And today we're going to talk about fics. Well, first let's talk a little bit about why we read fanfiction. For me, it's more Snape. There's never enough, right? Because there just isn't enough of him in the series.
Yeah.
If it was told from his point of view, it still wouldn't be enough either. So for a lot of people, he's a comfort character, which I guess just means something you read when you're in a bad mood or whatever, if you're stressed out.
You have those characters that you latch on to that either you relate to or want to know more about, make you feel good.
Right.
Yeah.
Project all your issues on, in a way. So they can suffer for you, like plays of you. And they're strong characters so that they can take it when you can. So, it's fun seeing them.
They can take it and you can't. Okay.
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And definitely for me, just with the pandemic going on and not being able to go anywhere or do anything and feeling separate from, I guess, like normal life, it's been wonderful to be able to dive into a world that we obviously know and love and want to experience more of. So being able to find thousands of different stories about the characters that we love to make us feel safe and happy is wonderful. It's what I love most about fan fiction. We kind of covered that a little bit on if we're feeling some kind of way, it helps pull us out of that or feel the opposite of what we want to be feeling, which is really great.
That's so true.
You already know this world, so it's like... It's kind of cheesy, but like it's coming home kind of thing, right? Because you already know these characters and it's very nice.
And most of us are familiar for the past 20 some odd years of knowledge that we've built. So it's really easy for us to understand and feel part of something with little or as much like description or exposure to the world. We can enjoy it regardless of how much we're given and how much we give to it, which is awesome in comparison to starting completely from scratch that no one can relate to. You have to convince them of it. So that's where fan fiction is amazing in that regard.
So there's already like very established fanon about how magic powers work in some things, like how potions work and everything.
Yeah.
But some authors always like put their own spin on it.
And that's also what's so great about our creativity is taking that base for magic potions, like you said, and doing something with it that we never would have thought of doing. And you're just like, yes, that is exactly how it should work. That is exactly what it should be in canon. And then we believe it. We're like, this is the new canon, and I'm totally down for this. And this is how magic works and how it affects things. Our minds are amazing. Just all the fans' minds and what they can build and create is fantastic.
Yeah. How they connect with existing lore, like the real world, like especially the potions thing. Like I mostly read Snape fanfiction. They have a lot of potions lore coming in, so like how they get Bezwar and everything. Someone actually had a journal, where they documented it. It was great to to see the enthusiasm that people had and how they really got into it.
Oh, that sounds interesting. So they made a journal of various potions from different fics. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically connections to the real world. Where is this thing coming from? So that was really interesting because I didn't even know about the real world connection. So Rowling kind of took from the real world and adapted it for her purposes. So yeah, it was kind of cool to like see the connections.
For me, a lot of I'm not a writer. I'm only a consumer.
We appreciate those too. You're just as important, if not more so.
Oh, thank you. I love being able to communicate with the author through comments.
Yes.
Or going past, say, AO3 to knowing someone on Tumblr or LiveJournal. It's just really nice. You can just really have a sense of community.
Yeah. And you realize how, like, we're all just normal people. It's not an us and them situation. We've come together, writers, readers, it's easy to just be a part of the same thing. As much as we might go into a server, we might see one of our favorite authors and we're just like so starstruck. And the next thing you know, wait, they're just like me. We're just two people on the computer doing things, and now we're friends, and it's not weird. It's just easy. It's so great. I love that. We don't have that separation or hierarchy that you could see with other quote unquote, celebrity situations of being like JK versus Sarah the fanfic writer.
Yeah, they're not in their ivory towers, which, yeah, it's just really fun.
It's amazing to see the uncensored views, like when to see your favorite author interacting with their people,
Yeah.
and you're just there and like watching it.
Yes.
So like getting to know them.
I'm not creepily watching this conversation.
Yeah. I don't know if the author should feel good about this or not,
Mhm.
but it is good to see it.
Well, let's address the hippogriff in the room. Smut.
Oh. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I definitely filter for explicit. I'll be 100% honest. Mm-hmm.
I don't read it that much at all. I tried to separate myself from it. I prefer reading just romance or like fluff stuff with ships. None of that. No, thank you.
That's the great thing about AO3. You can filter for all that stuff in or out. There is a problem with PWP, which I guess is supposed to mean porn without plot, but sometimes it means porn with plot or plot what plot. And
Usually porn without plot or plot what plot.
at first, somehow I read it as porn without pity.
That's also fine.
That's pretty much.
Okay. I'll have to think about that. What is porn
Without
with
pity. I think
What would
it's
be
Because like you don't feel bad about what you have put the characters into, I guess.
I think so. It's
people feel bad about it?
Yeah,
or the writer doesn't take pity on the reader.
exactly. It's like, hey, you're here. You
Yeah.
made this point.
So you're gonna have to read this and clean your eyeballs later.
No, read this. Yeah.
Yeah, and something I think we wanted to talk about was like the emotional connection we have to the characters and
Oh,
how
yes.
we want them to feel love or affection or obviously sexual desire that we want to be a part of and be exposed to because we care and have invested ourselves in them. We know them. It's something comfortable but also really sexy experience.
Yeah. I read a lot of fanfic with my comfort characters where they're not
Yeah.
dead. So that is always a
Yes,
plus.
that is also
Mhm.
good.
Yeah, I love the fix-it.
They're being happy and having sexy times, right?
I know.
The Harry Potter fandom is kind of like,
Boring.
it's kind of vanilla, about porn, to be honest. Like considering the things that could happen, like in canon, Hagrid's situation.
Mhm.
So, there's a lot of things that could be happening, but
Oh yeah.
people are like very conservative about it. They're like very vanilla about it. So
It goes
I
well with
I
Snape.
do like
Anti-Snape. Yeah.
BDSM type of things in fic because it goes well with Snape.
We talked about reading and writing both actually. I see that writing is pretty therapeutic for the writer.
Definitely. Yeah, I know for me, I went through with being stuck at home under lockdown, I definitely went through a big depressive period. And fanfic writing definitely kind of pulled me out of that and made me feel happy feelings for the first time in like a long time. So it's definitely been kind of a self-healing thing because I know going into it, I can come out feeling the way I want to feel, which is wonderful.
It's like you still need a lot of internal strength to and confidence to actually like share the stories. But it is pretty nice. I daydream about it, but I don't write it out. But it is still nice, like daydreaming about scenarios or something that can pull me out of the headspace that I could be in. So that is good.
That does sound good.
Oh yeah, even when I'm at work, I'm thinking about fan fiction. So it's just all encompassing.
Yeah, sometimes even while dreaming about it, you still think about it. You get dreams about it. You're in the fan fiction world that you created.
Oh, yes. I think I'm like, did I read that? Did I write that? Or did I dream it? I'm not really sure.
And the reader is subjected to it without pity.
Yep, exactly. No pity.
Yeah, strap in.
It's so great with fan fiction to be able to take the world and pull the problems of it that we have seen throughout the series that we wish could be different. And with fan fiction, we can do that. So we can either change things to be what we want it to be or add kind of what we talked about, earlier, I think from the Snape perspective is we don't see a lot of his headspace. There are characters we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and we're able to explore that and invest deeper into those comfort characters, which is super great. It gives us more of what we want, and then there's endless amounts of that.
Exploring the character through fanfic, putting them in different situations. Sometimes it's kind of controversial, I think. Many people don't like complete AUs to native universes, but I love them because it puts the character in a completely different scenario. And if the author actually tries to think of how this character would act there in this situation, how the character would feel about this situation, or how he would react. So that's kind of, it leads to very good exploration of characterizations. It just makes me feel, more in love with the characters that I already love.
Yeah, because that's kind of it's a balance between the taking something we know and something new and meshing them together. So even though we're not coming up with something completely unique and different, we're taking something we know, like the characters we love, and putting them into a new situation. So it gives us that ability to be extremely creative while having a basis to feel comfortable to start with. Yeah.
This is very apparent in crossovers.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those magical world only people, AUs. I'll do epilogue stuff. Obviously the way things ended, other than giving us more characters to play with, it's not my cup of tea. But I love sticking to the world itself, just because, like we talked about, I'm really comfortable with it. I feel like I know a lot about it, so I feel confident. It makes me feel good to feel like I'm an expert. We all feel that way. We can't help but feel like we really know what we're doing and giving, which gives us all that kind of boost, and is really nice.
So it makes me feel even more jealous of you writers.
Well, that's
not jealous, but in awe of.
Yeah, because I think, something else we wanted to talk about was, even from the reader's perspective, is how important not only kudos, but comments are. How much it validates us and makes us feel like what we made is seen and appreciated, because most of us put so much time and love and energy into something. And for someone to come back and be like, oh my gosh, I loved this. It's amazing to pull open AO3 and see 3, even if it's just 3 in your inbox, you're just oh my gosh, what did people say? It's one thing to be to read through or go through the first chapter if it's a multi-chapter fic and click kudos. That could mean anything. But when you leave comments, that is probably the most powerful thing you can do for a writer to make us feel amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my experience, and probably many others, is not knowing what to say. But I know even saying just, oh, I loved it, is good.
Yeah, I love it. Or thanks for making this, or anything like that. A heart emoji.
Yeah.
I'm down for anything.
That makes it more expressive, right? But I feel more lovely chapter or something. Okay, just 2 words. That kind of the author wrote a 3K word, long fic for you, a chapter for you, and then you're just writing 2 words. I'm always because I mostly used to write 2 words. If I'm reading a long, multi-chapter fic, then I'll be clicking through the chapters very so. I just want to get to the next chapter, but then I feel guilty about not appropriately commenting on that. So, okay.
I know, because I download everything, so I'm reading it in my iBooks. So I'm just literally reading until I get to the very end, and then I'm like, oh, I need to go back and comment. And of course, I feel bad because I know that there's moments in different chapters that you're just oh my gosh, that was so mean for the author to do, or that was the cutest thing ever. And you forget how you felt in the moment, and I feel so bad about that. So I try and be better about it. It's like, oh, I'm at the end of the chapter. How did it make me feel? I have a link to the story. Go take care of that because I know I
There's a
appreciate it.
feature, and I think Wattpad is the only story that actually has a feature where you can comment on specific lines. Like you're reading a fic, and you can just select and like comment
Oh,
on a specific part that you like. So it's awesome. I don't read and watch.
so kind of like Google
Yep,
Docs
yep.
commenting.
It's amazing. Yeah, I think
Cool.
it'll lead to more atomicized reviewing, but at least because there's some things that I really like. Even in a say a 3K word chapter, I'll forget most of the stuff. As I come down. Especially if a lot of things are happening in the chapter. So
Yeah.
I want to be able to like save it. So, like one way is to do the to keep saving and in a different tab and going back to the chapter, but that is like too disruptive for me. So I would really like a feature like that. Wattpad in that respect is awesome. It is really nice when an author replies to you, like if they so like
Yes.
if they posted the chapter in say 2016, and many fics are not that like the many ships are not that popular. Many ships or many genres are not that popular. So like I read those genres. So there'll be fics where there's been no comment since 2016 or something. So it's like incredibly sad looking. That's why I feel even more, I feel more obligated to actually do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's incredible to like see how it affects the authors that they came back to the story and like so happy to see your comments, and their comment makes you happy. So it's like a feedback loop of happiness.
Exactly.
And it's such a small way to give back to people who go to the effort of writing and the courage to put it out
Yeah.
for people to see.
It's definitely, there's an extent of vulnerability in it, which, yeah, is a huge part of it for sure.
Right. We haven't plugged your
Oh,
podcast
yes.
yet, Pair of Magical Shippers.
Yeah.
So if you want to say something.
So I'm Megs, obviously. I come from my own podcast, Care of Magical Shippers, which is all about the Harry Potter shipping culture. So each episode, for the most part, is we pick a different ship and we unpack it and we talk about where it came from, why we love it, why people write it and read it. And it's a lot of fun. So it gets us into especially some of the rare stuff that some people are really about but don't get enough exposure to it. And if I don't like something or my co-host doesn't like something, we go in and dive into it. And then all of a sudden we come out, oh my gosh, I shipped this so hard. So it's a lot of fun to get out of. We obviously have like our OTPs, and to pull out and look into other people's OTPs is huge. And being able to celebrate everyone is a lot of fun. It's been a great journey and project to move forward with for sure.
Oh, that's great. And did you come out bi-weekly?
Yes, bi-weekly.
That's good. I'm trying to do monthly.
Bi-weekly is like holy. that's very fast.
I know weekly would never happen. There's no way weekly would ever happen.
It is not supposed to cause you stress, right? If you did it weekly, then it could cause stress, I feel. There's just so much to discuss that even if you did decide to do it weekly, that then you could probably do it. But you'll have to get a lot of people, like very enthusiastic people.
I would lose my mind. It's so much. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's amazing. I love it. I wish I could get more content out quicker. There's no way. So I'm sorry, everyone. You'll get it. It'll just take time.
Oh, for goodness sake, don't apologize. I think bi-weekly is wonderful.
Yeah.
What is the weirdest pairing that you upload in your podcast?
In the podcast, so far we did the Golden Trio, and then next one will be Tamari, which I didn't know I would like, and I love it. And then we did Linny, so Luna and Ginny. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember. We're going to do Arthur and Molly. So we want to look at like them when they were younger and how, they met and things like that. And then them growing as a couple together, which I think is fun. Because we don't really think about like the older characters, established relationships. Like they were young, they were in love, they started somewhere. So that was really cool.
They're still in love. Yeah, they work pretty well.
We're going to do, we have to actually today, Nathan and I are meeting to sit down to discuss what we want, like kind of the ships that we want to focus on. So we'll know more later today, but those are what we have recorded so far. And then Wolfstar is going to be our first like big ship, which I call a cruise ship because it's so big. But then obviously, I mean, Snary's on the agenda, but I didn't want to throw too many big ships at us at once. I think that getting some smaller, rare stuff is really important too. Like we had some fans of the Black Sisters and back in the Marauders era, looking at Narcissa, Bellatrix, the McKinnons, things like that I never would have considered, which was really fun to learn more about. So it's all these characters that we might have heard a name, or we just, with research, we figure out existed, and being able to read and see those come forward is super fun. So I'm always learning. It's just amazing when people are like, what about this? I'm like, that's the thing? All right, let's look at it.
How do you learn about some of these rare pairs?
Well, usually we have a Discord, which is essentially for research. So people help with, usually they are like, this is a ship I really like. So they'll either recommend fics that they have read, or we have discussions as far as like headcanons and what people love to see if and when they come across fics like that. So it really just depends on who we interact with, because obviously we get excited about something when you're excited about something, which makes a huge difference. And then I've done some rare pair like writing fest, which is also really cool to see the different pairings that people have pitched or come up with or wrote. So it's fun. It's if you look for it, it's there. You just wouldn't think to look for it, especially if you have, like I had, Drary and Snary were like my two comfortable, my little box of fanfics that I loved. And then doing this project, it's just amazing. Now I can't keep up with anything. I love so many things now. It's insane.
I'm overwhelmed just with Snape.
I know. Well, yes, that too. I mean, that's the thing. There's so much in most ships. I mean, there's still a lot, even in rare ones. There's opportunity to, because a friend of mine, we have some like rare, like next gen pairs that don't have much, like maybe have like 100 fic, and so we're like, okay, we're gonna carry this ship. This is our ship now. We're gonna write all the fic, which I haven't been, but they've been doing great with it. So but ultimately, no ship is better than another. We all like what we like. We all read what we read, and whatever we enjoy that makes us feel good, do it. Read it, write it. It's all about you.
Yes.
Especially the characters that are not fleshed out. So like Fan has made really good characterizations of them. Like I think McKinnons have some good characterizations. I think also like very consistent kind of characterization in all the Marauder fics. And Daphne Greengrass. So like she's a famous one. No, we know nothing about her in cat.
It's really, actually, yes. When Daphne gets plugged in there, I feel like a lot of times it can be kind of a joke. It's like, oh yeah, there's the other Greengrass sister. Like, yeah, she's here too.
It's like I've heard her referred to as female Draco. She's basically the female kind of like more modern version of Draco
I
that
like
the people
that.
have made up. So it's good though. Like, her background character is very consistent throughout the fic. Like people just decided on this that she's going to be a neutral Slytherin, and it's kind of a centrist. She won't be involved in whatever is happening, but she'll be from an aristocratic family. It's kind of cool, and they explore Harry through that mostly. And so like the next gen characters that you said, they also have the same thing. But at least now, because of Cursed Child, we kind of had more characterizations of them, like how they're going to be. I don't know if you consider it canon.
And that's something with fic, as we read a lot of the same things, or especially for characters that we don't know much about, we find ourselves characterizing them in a certain way, and then all fic kind of follow that personality trait, even though in the books give us nothing. But if we're obsessed about a character enough and are exposed to it, we believe a certain like personality or trait for someone, and it's neat to see that translated through a ton of different avenues, like random fics that all of a sudden we're all like, yeah, that's who that person is, duh. So that's really cool to see how we essentially, as fans, we created a character. We were given a name and we made a character, and this is who they are, and that's amazing.
Yeah, we influence the character through the portrayal that's in the media that we we're consuming. This is actually also what happened with Luna Lovegood, because I don't know the actress's
Ivana
name.
Lynch.
Yeah, Ivana Lynch. Yeah. So Ivana Lynch's portrayal of Luna in the movies, that kind of influenced J.K. Rowling's characterization of her in the later books. Like, characterization kind of shifts in the later books. That's because of J.K. Rowling herself being influenced, because she saw Ivana Lynch as
Yeah,
Luna.
there's a lot of the characters from the movies I don't necessarily picture or think of them as the characters as I read or write. But yeah, as far as Luna goes, she is Luna. When I think of Luna, she is Luna, hands
That's
down.
true. How do you picture Snape?
Okay, so so he is like, I don't know, I just think of, okay, so have either of you watched Invader Zim?
Oh, not for
No?
yonks.
Okay.
No.
Never mind. Anyway, I see him as really like a tall, skinny, like awkward, lanky character, which of course, like, he still has like his hook nose, long hair. But really it's just kind of like that really tall, menacing, like looms over you Snape, versus like Alan Rickman seems like kind of average adult. Like he's handsome and fun and I love him, but I want someone who's gonna look down at me and scare the hell out of me. I just picture there's the teacher in Invader Zim. So for people who are listening and know Invader Zim, she's really tall and looms over everybody. And I kind of picture that would be a cartoon version of Snape, but ultimately really tall, very intimidating, but also, hot in his own way.
Just describing him now, I heard or I pictured Joey Ramone, because he's tall and skinny and he does have a big nose. I never really, sometimes I've pictured him as Ed Gwynn, who's Herman Munster.
Oh,
Just, yeah, he was tall and lanky, and he was also in Pet Sematary, if you've seen that, the original.
oh no, I'm not a horror movie person at
That's all
all.
right. We all have our things.
I mostly picture as an anime character. Like, I have an anime movie running in my head, because it just makes it easier to like picture all the magic stuff, because you can do anything in anime. So I just have that thing.
Oh, okay. I found him. So I know for a lot of, especially in the Snary community, Adrian Brody
Oh,
is like everyone's
yeah,
favorite
yeah.
Snape.
A
Yeah,
lot of
definitely in Snary.
some people say Adam Driver, but I think
I
he's
do.
too massive
No,
myself.
no, yes. That's the
No?
thing. If Snape was like tall but also buff,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
I see him. Like he's definitely a headcanon if he was not so, yeah, Kylo Ren-y.
right.
Yeah, but I see him, and then oh gosh, what's his name? Who plays Loki in the Marvel movies?
Oh, Tom Hiddleston?
Even though his nose isn't obviously big enough, when I think of Loki, I also picture Snape because of the long black hair. I don't know. That's my nerd coming out. I'm like, yeah, Kylo Ren, Loki, Severus Snape, all the same person.
Loki would totally be sorted in Slytherin. Ambush, cunning.
And they're all the quote unquote villains, of their own stories. So they're all very, yeah, I love them so much. I love villains. I just love villains. I love the guys we're supposed to hate, and especially in fanfic, teach you how to love them. Like, they deserve to be loved, and they are human. They have emotions, they have feelings. So it kind of cuts down the barrier of just seeing them as, especially with Snape. A lot of people look and read the stories and just see him as face value, as like, oh, he's super mean, he's abusive to kids, blah, blah, blah. But once you figure out his headspace, in the background, and when he was younger, the bullying and everything he went through, it's just interesting to dive into why characters become the way they are. Like, most of them, unless it's obviously there's reasons why someone would just be mean no matter what, but to be able to figure out why the bitterness or why the behaviors came to be, I love learning more about that, especially in fan fiction.
Yeah, with the villains, like you said, it's kind of like there's something that happened to make them a villain. Like, Loki was not a villain before. He figured out that he didn't consider him a son. Like, he was not Odin's son. So he thought that Odin
Right.
didn't actually consider him. So like that's when he like snapped. And Snape kind of snapped. Snape kind of snapped when I think it was a very gradual process, to be honest. Like, Snape was at his lowest in the Dumbledore scene, in the Hilltop scene. So his life kind of led him there, because he was kind of a
Yeah.
sweet kid, all things considered. So it's kind of like
I mean, Lily wouldn't, like, you think of how sweet Lily obviously probably was, and it's not like she would latch on to someone who was, like a mean, terrible kid. I mean, he definitely was, young and vulnerable, terrible home life and going to school, and just essentially think about 7 years of bullying and abuse from a group of kids and being alienated in such a way. For him to come out of that, and you wouldn't blame him for wanting to get into something like the Death Eaters or following Voldemort, because he will, give you. He makes you think like you're important and you're quote unquote probably like better than certain people. And I'm sure that built him up in a way to feel like he wanted to feel important, and then realized along the way it wasn't what he thought it was going to be. But then, of course, he was trapped into a future, whatever the reasons why, essentially latching onto Dumbledore and what Dumbledore wanted him to do. And his life wasn't his own. Like, you think about his entire life up until the end, it was not his own path. He was pushed into various paths. And that's probably one of the most tragic things about his character, is he never got to really live.
That's one of the best things about Snape fanfiction, actually. Like, they give him a choice, finally gets a choice in his own fate. But in a way, like, going to Dumbledore was his only choice that he actually like made. Or yeah, it's kind of like completely like out of the left field kind of thing, because Lily had already left him, so there's no hope for him. Like, he's not
Right.
going to get anything from this, but he still did, because she had been his friend and everything. So went out of his way, and almost in a time where people got killed because of being Death Eaters, and he went to Dumbledore, the General of the Light, who knew that he was a Death Eater now. He'd already like heard the prophecy and everything. So that was kind of a ballsy move.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because he could have shown up in front of Dumbledore, and for any and all reasons, if it was any other member of the Order of the Phoenix, guaranteed Snape would be dead. If you think about it, like, if he showed up at Dumbledore and he was just like, "Why are you here? Why should I care?" But at least he gave him the opportunity.
And Snape definitely, he fully expected to get killed. So, like, his words are, "Don't kill me."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Please don't.
yeah.
I come in peace.
Yeah.
Ish.
Sure, Dumbledore could just see what he could get out of Snape. Why was this Death Eater showing up?
Yes. Oh, he was definitely a tool,
I don't think he ever expected Snape to,
for
like,
sure.
to feel that way, like, to feel so strongly. I think Dumbledore was kind of prejudiced towards Death Eaters. Like, it's not that Death Eaters can't feel, or, bad people can't feel love or something. Dumbledore's line has always been that Death Eaters, like bad people, they don't have feelings, or they don't show remorse. But, we do see people that, yeah, we do see the quintessentially bad people, like, big amounts of love. So, like, the Malfoy family, they love each other, totally love each other.
Yeah, they're like the only family we actually get to see that vulnerable side. We see Lucius as like hard and unloving, and then toward the end, that all they care about is Draco's safety, and for whatever reason. And so that each of those members of Death Eaters, for the most part, they have their families, and they feel. And like anyone, when you have what you believe in, you think what you're doing is right and probably best for your family. So it's just, yeah, doesn't mean it's the right choice, obviously, but
Yeah, but it does make it more understandable. So, like, if you change, so that's what makes it good, right? So, like, villains are much more interesting to see in fan fiction, because these are like, on the inside they're good people. They could be good people. There's a potential there at some point. So for, say, Loki, you just take him out of. You just assure him that Odin loves him. Odin does something to, like, make sure that Loki knows. So Loki will develop in a very different way than can. So yeah, same for Snape. So, like, you take away anything, like poor background, maybe give him some new friends, maybe sort into a different house. It will just develop much more differently than can. Very interesting.
yeah, when I'm reading Snape, I definitely love the like angsty hurt type of things, because you get not only his vulnerability, but also his like self-loathing and feeling like he doesn't deserve love or anyone's affection. And you're rooting for him the whole time. You're just like, come on, man, come on. They're giving it to you willingly. Don't think that there's no there's no plot for to come at you, and it's just I love seeing him grow and finally having that resolution to find his place, especially romantically with someone. I love that. And for me, usually Snary, and I just love seeing him from a point of view of his mind, everything emotionally that he's going through, that trials and tribulations before we get that ultimate happy ending. And I love it. I could eat it all day long.
I think you're reading a different kind of Snape figure. Like, I'm pretty sure that so like I read Sympathetic Magic, and there are many love stories, and most of them are like angsty, very angsty. So everything bad that can happen, it will happen to Snape. There's this element of yeah, in one of the fanfics, there was actually a scene where Snape did something to Lily. Like Lily was, she was ready to like forgive him and everything, and she was like trusting him. So Snape said, "Just close your eyes," and Lily was like conflicted, but she ultimately closed her eyes. And then there was this kid who just came in and flicked a cauldron on Lily's head, and it was a Slytherin kid. Sorry, Snape couldn't snitch on him.
Oh my gosh.
It is hilarious. So like nothing good can happen. Like Snape, people that say this, we like seeing him suffer. Like as much as we like him doing good. So like ultimately it should be good, but in the meanwhile, like it can be bad.
I like angsty stuff too.
Angst on
I
the
have this belief that a happy ending should not be guaranteed.
Oh, you're cruel.
I'm cruel to myself.
No, that's
I'm not
true,
writing
though.
that.
Yes, I know. That's very.
That's what I'm thinking when I'm reading. So.
No. I'm like, oh no. Oh gosh, that hurts my chest just thinking about it. I need to know that this is going to end up okay.
I don't know.
I think most of it does, but it can be bad. And Kid is the quintessential Snape fan, She wants good things for Snape, but she does want to see him suffer a little bit.
That's how we grow, isn't it? Through suffering.
Yes, technically.
Yeah, especially like seeing the characters suffer. Not me. Just let the character suffer. He's strong.
Mm-hmm.
He can take
He's
it.
got strong shoulders. Oh, one thing I wanted to bring up before we close was I wanted to talk a little bit about how to search for stories on AO3. It's really a wonderful system they have, and I just want to bring it up here real quick.
What is it? I think it's on Tumblr, AO3 Comments of the Day.
Oh, yes.
.tumblr.com. But they just give you a random tip and trick for using AO3, which is absolutely amazing. Half the time I'm like, what? That's a thing you can do? Which is awesome. So other than obviously the obvious things of the filter system that you can do, I want this fan, I want this pairing, but I also don't want this pairing, or I do want crossovers, or I want finished fics. It gives you a lot of power to find not necessarily exactly what you want, because it will give you a ton of what you want most of the time, but at least in the realm of what you want to read, you're kind of just like, okay, now I'm going to close my eyes and pick, because there's just so much.
Yeah.
Which isn't always the case, depending on the pairing and what you like to read. But
the rating, I guess, is also, do you want explicit or you don't?
Right, for sure.
I always want explicit.
Oh, Severitis there's relationships. Severitis is probably the most common. There's no romantic pairing.
Right.
Snape either adopts or has care of, of Harry.
It's called Severus or something, right? The biological father, like they have two different names.
The biological father of
Severitis. Yeah. And then Sevitis is mentoring. Sevitus,
Sevitus is adopt and Severitis is biological. But often people tag for Severitis, so Sevitus isn't used very often. I mean, it technically exists, but it's kind of like I know what it is, but I feel like the average person doesn't know what it is. So, but yeah, I love that too, because that's also a thing to see how Severus would be kind of in like a paternal like role, like how he would be raising any sort of child and how he responds to why he adopts Harry or discovering he's his child. Like, I love thinking about him discovering the situation that he's put into with the Dursleys and being completely pissed off with Dumbledore and being like, well, fuck this. I'm going to go and I'm taking him. I will raise him. This is Lily's son. Like, what are you doing, crazy old man?
Yeah.
So
Have you read That Awful Boy?
No.
I know that's a big one. We haven't really talked about specific stories, but That Awful Boy by Sim is very good. And it's got a little bit of snooping in it too.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've read In Care Of, like it's an animagus Snape story, and so Snape drops in Harry's backyard, and like he's taken care of by Harry, and that's how he learns the situation on Dursley. So that's a great one.
We'll have to make a list and put it in the in the description because I haven't heard of these. I want to read them.
Yeah, we'll link that in the notes.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to call them the extras because they call the little blurb show notes.
Mm-hmm.
If I go to extras, then we can put all the art and links and all sorts of stuff. So, okay. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Oh, it was Care of Magical Shippers.
Yeah,
Definitely.
did a lot of care here. I hope. A lot of caring.
A lot of caring.
It's really funny. They do a job. Okay. I'm going to stop recording now. So
until next time.
Thanks to Megs, Fermion, and Fallen for their participation. In the future, we will have more focus segments with specific pairings. Some of the fics that we will talk about have explicit ratings, which is why this podcast is also rated explicit. That, and we may drop the occasional F-bomb. Now let's listen to my interview with the wonderful Nyx, discussing her art and Snape. This is Snapecentric, and we are talking with Nyx, who is on Tumblr as myobscureimaginarium and DeviantArt as dimitriwix. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Nyx. I go by Nyx online, and I am 22 years old, and I live in a small town in Denmark. And yeah, I draw almost exclusively Professor Snape. When I'm not drawing, I'm studying to get a master's degree in digital design, which has nothing to do with digital art or graphic design, regretfully. It's just designing interactive artifacts in general. And then I have a small job as a tech support in a rather boring company.
That's good. So, oh gosh, you said a master's?
Yeah, a master's degree.
You're a postgraduate.
Exactly, I'm almost finished, so it's kind of scary.
At least things are starting to be more normal now.
Yeah, I can't return to uni yet, but hopefully soon.
What brought you to the world of Harry Potter?
I think I was 11 when I started reading the books, so the final book was out by then. And all of my friends at the time had also read the books, so we obsessed over it together. We role-played and wrote fanfiction before we knew there was anything such as fanfiction, and it just stuck with me. I guess I love the lore. Now, one could easily discuss whether or not the lore in Harry Potter is any good, but at the time I really adored reading something with rules, in-universe history, family trees, so always something new to learn and obsess over. So it's definitely my special interest or hyperfixation.
Have you always been a Snape fan, or?
Yeah, I think I have. I think I gravitated towards Bellatrix in the beginning, but then I went for Snape in the end. And I think why I like him is it's probably just because it's the type of character I like in general. And with a very, very few exceptions, I have never read a book or seen a movie where I enjoyed the classic hero or good guy. I generally dislike them, actually. I find it very difficult to sympathize with them. I don't know what that says about me, but just everything I love in a fictional character, I can find in the character of Snape. So a very nuanced, great character with a backstory to explore.
Yes, I agree. What you like best about him?
Yeah, this was a very difficult question because sometimes we just like stuff because we like them. So it was nice to explore why I spent so much time on this character. But I think first of all, he's fun to read because of his wit. He's very sarcastic and he has a dry sense of humor. So he's just fun. I also like that he isn't a traditionally good person and that he's aware of that. But he doesn't let that prevent him from still being brilliant and brave. So I think that's a very nice character trait.
So true.
I'm also fascinated by the fact that there's so little known about him in canon. He's one of the, main characters. He's one of the characters who's a big part of the series, but we know very little about him, which makes the possibilities endless. So I said he had a backstory to explore, but very vague. They hint to his home life growing up, they hint to his social standing as a student, hints to his role as a spy and Death Eater, but nothing concrete. And that makes him a very versatile character with multiple roles. So you could see him and write him or draw him as a young scared boy or insecure teenager or angsty young man or a brilliant professor, a powerful wizard. Just the possibilities are endless, and they're all within the bounds of canon. So the point is you can keep exploring new facets of his character.
That's brilliant.
And that can be done through Tumblr, of course, all the content created on Tumblr. So it's just an endless stream of new content to obsess over.
Oh, there certainly is.
Thankfully.
Are you self-taught?
Yes, I am entirely self-taught. I do like to look at online tutorials because I think it's important to do, but I don't really follow them. I just try to use them as inspiration. And I did contemplate studying art, but when I had to decide on what to study, I was nowhere near as comfortable with my art as I am now. And I still occasionally regret not pursuing art, though I'm pretty certain that studying it would take the fun out of it for me. So it's probably for the best. They probably wouldn't let me keep drawing Snape, so it wouldn't be as fun.
Oh, I understand. I know you work in digital. What other mediums do you work in?
I almost exclusively work in digital. I studied digital design, as I said, so I'm naturally very fascinated by the possibilities of technology and IT. All the other mediums I use is to aid me with digital art. So for example, I'll sketch almost all of my drawings on paper before moving to my tablet, but it's just to explore what I'm going to draw on my tablet. So the composition, and I'll write small notes and dot down a few colors. And I have tried oil and acrylic paints, but that was many years ago. I should definitely try to do it again, because it would be cool to be one of those artists with a big repertoire of skills to draw on. But I am currently working on something with programming, if one could call that a medium. It's just a small dress-up game with Snape, which is like a silly, fun project, like a character creator from video games.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, I can't draw clothes, or I'm not very good at it at least, so it will probably take some time, but I'll hopefully get it done.
You're so good with everything. I'm sure that'll be a challenge that you'll come through with flying colors.
Thank you. But really, if anyone is interested, you're more than welcome to send ideas for what to make him wear, silly things to add to the game. That would be a lot of fun.
Oh, yes. How long does an average piece take you to complete?
I definitely think I spent way too much time on a drawing. I feel like I could do it quicker, and I actively try to do it quicker. I think I spend 8 to 20 hours, depending on the piece. So I have this drawing of Snape wearing some funky glasses that I think it took 8 hours. And then a recent drawing I did where a little Severus is laying in his bed took 13 hours, and that is without the preliminary sketches, which also takes a lot of time. But okay, I'm actively trying to work quicker because I think it's a great skill to have as an artist. So not obsess over small or unimportant details. If you zoom in really close, you can see all the mistakes. But I just try not to zoom in anymore and try to overcome the stupid fear of posting something unfinished or bad.
Yeah, I think artists tend to be more perfectionist than their audience often.
Definitely.
Just because every little, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a bad part of digital art. It's possible to zoom in and see all the mistakes. Can't really do that when you're just drawing on paper.
That's true.
But I also enjoy the slow process of making a drawing come to life. So it can be a huge project for me. I write, I don't know if you can call it meta or just notes about the piece. So what I want to convey. And the text I add to my drawings on Tumblr, I often like to write a small story or something to go along with it. That's based on the stories I write to help me with the drawing. So I am in a way illustrating my own fan fictions.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I also write, but I prefer to make small, I wouldn't call it comics because it's only one picture, but just stories through one picture.
That sounds good. I've really enjoyed some of the things that you've posted along with your art. They're really enjoyable.
Thank you. I use a lot of time writing it, so I'm very glad to hear that.
I love your use of color. You have these unexpected shades in the faces. How do you come to make those choices, I guess, in your style?
That's again a very difficult question because it's about my style, and you don't really know why you like to write or talk in a certain way, you just do it. But looking at the art I had been exposed to, I can see some parallels. So this was actually a very fun exercise for me to go back and look at the art I like and see, oh, I probably was inspired by that. So growing up, I really liked a book illustrator for children called Chris Riddle, and I have definitely drawn some inspiration from him. And then the art artist and movie director Tim Burton, which I was a big fan of, especially when I was younger. And then I also like to look at concept art for video games and just looking at art online. You could do that for hours, just a brilliant, never-ending museum. Yeah, I could spend hours and just scrolling. But I also love classical art, like the American portrait artist John Singer Sargent. I think he's from the 1890s, perhaps. Something like that. I really like his use of colors and how he's able to make a painting feel so alive with very easy strokes. So the brush set I use when I draw is actually inspired by him. I downloaded it from a website and it's called the Sargent brush set. And then I also love the American artist Leyendecker. I remember finding his art and thinking, oh, this is brilliant. I'm gonna steal this. It's not very you can't really tell if you look at my art, but just the way he applied brush strokes and use color to show shapes and dimensions. And that really inspired me to make my sketches simpler, instead use color to create shapes, which really helped me. And then there's a Danish artist called Jens Ferdinand Willumsen. I'll just switch over to Danish, from the 30s. And I remember seeing one of his exhibitions and getting a totally new outlook on how I could draw. And a part of that was using odd colors and skin and just having a very free approach to art. So which actually, after seeing that exhibition, I went home and started using different colors for skin. And I only remembered that when I had to look back for this interview.
Well, I'm glad you did. It's very interesting. I see you have some great portraits on DeviantArt that are not Snape. I was wondering, are they in an impressionistic style, would you say?
I hardly look at them anymore. I'm not sure I would say it's a particular style. I was just trying and I think failing at developing a realistic style I felt comfortable in. But now that you mention it, I can definitely see that I've been inspired by Impressionism, and I probably still am. It's definitely an art movement I gravitate towards because I liked how they work with the visible brush strokes and their interesting color choices. So yeah, I'm probably inspired by that without really knowing it.
Where can people find your art?
As we mentioned, I think you mentioned it in the beginning, I use, I can't remember my name, dimitriwix, sorry. You can find me on my Tumblr, myobscureimaginarium, where I rarely post, I infrequently post pictures, but I try to get better at posting more frequently. And then DeviantArt, but I'm called dimitriwix.
Yeah, it's worth going to both of those. We will have links up on the website, show notes. Do you do commissions or so on?
I do not do commissions or sell anything. I have thought about prints, but it still feels a bit silly that someone would buy something I'm buying. I think I need to improve a bit before being comfortable with offering prints. I fear I would be way too anxious and stressed if I have to deliver a commission. And like with art school, I'm afraid I would stop enjoying it. But I have opened for a request, which I have a lot of fun with. And I have created a coffee, so people can donate if they want to. It's just fun to get inspiration from other people who enjoy the character. The feeling of giving a small gift to someone is very nice because it's essentially a small gift based on someone's dream or headcanon about the character. So that's a nice feeling.
Yeah, you did one for me, a coffee drinking Snape.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that one.
Yes, a really unique approach of him adding a potion to his coffee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to keep awake.
Yes.
Or poison, whatever you want to interpret it as.
Let's move on to your works. Again, these, if you go to the show notes, these will all be there, as well as links to Tumblr and DeviantArt. snapechat.podbean.com. I love this first. I love all of them, but this is one of my favorites. It's called Legilimency. It's a wonderful dark bust of Snape against a moody background. It's done in shades of blue and gray with touches of purple and green. The most striking thing, though, is those piercing eyes.
Well, first off, this was also a very good exercise, so thank you for that. And I think actually everybody who's listening should try to do this. Just go back to art or stories, whatever you've created, and admit that you still like it. Because I thought I genuinely disliked everything I had created. But after revisiting it, I realized that I'm actually quite fond of a few of the pieces, and some of them are still technically good. So this was a very nice exercise. I really enjoyed it. But this Legilimency, I think this was the first drawing where I actually was very happy and proud of the result, and I still like it a lot, even though there are a few things I'd like to fix. And at the time I was exploring how I see him, so he's a little less cartoony than my current style, but it's still pretty close to how I draw him now. And this is the first drawing where I incorporated the odd colors the thing we talked about earlier. So this was how I saw things in my head, things I wanted to create, but until then I hadn't had the skills to properly translate it into a picture. So this was a bit of a eureka moment for me because the colors actually worked, the face worked. I was able to draw the man I had pictured in my head when reading the books, and it was just amazing.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, the next one is called Teaching the Dunderheads. This shows Snape gesturing to the blackboard, where he has magically written instructions for the draft of Living Death. It evokes the feel of potions class in the cold, damp dungeons.
Yeah, and that's just the potion master at work teaching a class. I like the picture because I used the green and purple skin, and he still looks rather elegant because I felt like he was very elegant when he was teaching class. He was very dignified. And just the text on the blackboard is based on a font I downloaded called the Half-Blood Prince, which mimics the handwriting from the movie. So if any fans want to write with his handwriting, just go download it. It's cool. But I really love this drawing because I reblogged it with a remark about Severus adapting to COVID school closure. And people actually responded to it with art and small stories. So that really gave me a sense of community. And it made me so happy just to see that people came together to talk about and have fun with this joke about Snape teaching via Zoom or whatever. Just people taking their time to draw something and write something in a community. Just a nice feeling.
Yeah, there's so much talent in this Snapedom.
Really is.
Oh, the next one is Potion Enthusiast, where Snape is portrayed in shades of pink and yellow, wearing a very steampunk pair of goggles. They're multi-lensed, and he's got a great crooked grin, and he looks kind of happy.
Yeah, pure academic greed. So the many roles I talked about earlier, so the mad scientist part of his character is just a lot of fun. I haven't found many fan fictions exploring that, but please write more. I love it. But I just really wanted to draw him happy because I had always drawn like sad pictures of him. So him with a big, lopsided, goofy smile, a smile he hides from most people. Like you said, happy. I guess it could be both interpreted as a happy smile, but also an unsettling one. So like an evil, mad scientist.
Yes.
And then the drawing itself was also just a lot of fun because of the goggles and funky colors.
Yeah, you do have a good choice of colors in this.
Thank you.
The next one, A Plant Kept in the Dark. Here we see adolescent Snape sitting with his knees up to his chest. His pants are too short, possibly his mom's blouse sticking out of his too small jacket. His dark eyes are shining out from his greasy face with a look of resentment and maybe a little fear.
Yeah, so there's a big gap from the last one because I started using the different brushes to mimic oil paintings. So it's a different technique.
It looks like canvas in the background, which is really, it's such a great touch.
Thank you. I wanted to look like a real painting, and then bricks behind him because he's leaning against a brick wall. And the plant kept in the dark he's described as looking like a plant kept in the dark in The Prince's Tale, and that was one of my favorite descriptions of him because it was just so visual. You could see like a little green kid standing in the shadows, and yeah, just his mom's blouse and pants too short, and just being extremely dissatisfied with life, which is so tragic at such a young age.
This one is The Vindictive Bat of the Dungeon. This has Snape grading papers, resplendent against a deep maroon backdrop. His eyes are luminous, as is the bottle of red ink in front of him.
So this was a rather quick process. I just wanted to create a somewhat flattering portrait where he looked like an intimidating and elegant professor. So I added the description of him always making sure to use his most threatening smirk and vindicting bat of the dungeon persona when inviting an inadequate student to his office. So I just wanted to show his persona because I feel like when I read it that it was a rehearsed, very effective persona he put on to scare students or get his way or be feared or be respected.
It's so effective too. Even just the little dab of red ink on his quill, it almost looks like blood, which makes it feel more threatening.
Yeah, exactly. I just imagine him keeping eye contact with the student while making a big T on the report and feeling very smug while doing it.
Then we have Belonging at a Great Price. This one shows a young Snape in front of a faceless crowd, clutching his left forearm, on which a fresh dark mark is partially visible. His luminous eyes and tight smile are particularly unsettling.
I had so much fun with this one because it was so quick and freeing. As you can see that it's somewhat different from what I usually do, especially the face. But I just wanted to show a young Severus' relationship with the dark arts. Him being tempted by the riches and powers promised to him, with all his Death Eater buddies standing behind him, finally feeling like he's supported by others. And I also like to imagine him still finding those prospects tempting during the Second War, especially during long order meetings where most people dislike him. So that the dark art has a way of ensnaring people. And then the final one.
Severus seeking solace. And here we see a younger Severus laying in bed with tears in his eyes, clutching his Hogwarts letter. On the shelf above him are his prized possessions, including a family photo, his mom's old magic books, and an owl from Lily.
I also finished this one somewhat quickly because it was just so cute I couldn't ignore him. So first of all, I made a background that isn't just a bunch of colors randomly placed next to each other. So that's a big part of why I like this one. And I added that because it felt important to show how he was like cooped up in his little room, dreaming of something bigger, and showing him being a little magpie collecting and treasuring almost worthless trinkets. And I also wanted all the things to tell something about him. So there's a gobstone from his mother, just to show his mother's relationship with magic. There's few things she gave to him. And then the mark on that's a Manchester City Football Club mark, which I guess is from his father. So they maybe attended the match together, just some fun muggle stuff. And then the tin soldier to mimic the soldiers Harry had in his cupboard, because I felt like their situation was somewhat similar.
Oh, that's such a nice touch.
It was like Harry playing with the little soldiers. I thought Severus should do the same. And I really wanted to I want to create more pieces like this one, because I feel like it's the first full scene I have created, that it has a narrative and you could write a story about it. Or I could write a story about it. So I want to keep making backgrounds like this and cute little Severuses.
If you look closely, he's got tears in his eyes. They're almost leaking out. One of the things I didn't mention, but I love the way you do eyes.
Thank you. One of my favorite parts to draw. Yeah, I don't know if you've tried, but when you are in a very bad mood and you just curl up in bed.
Yes.
And just look at your phone or look at something that makes you happy. Look at a funny video of a cat or read a fan fiction or something, and you just feel better. Just Severus feeling better by looking at his Hogwarts letter.
Yeah, it's very poignant.
Good.
That pretty much wraps everything up. We are, again, going to post links and pictures on our website at snapechat.podbean.com. Please go and take a look at these wonderful pictures.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for talking with us. And there you have another episode of Snape Chat. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd like to thank Nix and Megs for joining us, and DD Music for the music. Follow the links to Nix's art and Megs' podcast, Care of Magical Shippers. There are also links to reading recs on our email if you have any comments. Please be kind. Until next time, stay Snapey.